This Wonder Woman Wednesday is wrapping up
Yes.
with another wonderful woman. Her name is Adenike Oyetunde Lawal. Now, she's an alternate dispute resolutor. She's a TEDx speaker and qualified human resource personnel. Now, she's also an OAP. She's also an author.
And a lawyer.
Amazing.
Hello. Hi.
Good
Nice
morning.
to meet you.
Thank you for
I love
having
your
me.
outfit.
Yeah?
Thank you.
Thank you. So presently, you act as SSA to the governor on people living with disabilities as
Yes.
well. Your story is so powerful. For those that haven't read her book, Hello, is a page turner. Thank you so much for coming to talk to us.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. So now, for those that don't know, we need to touch on your journey
Okay.
to how you moved from being a lawyer to an OAP and now, of course, a special assistant. Let's touch on little bits and pieces here and there.
Okay, so like you mentioned, university, undergrad, lawyer qualified, and all of that. Life then happened during that course, and I was very determined that it wasn't going to change a lot of the trajectory that I had hoped and set out.
Yeah.
I continued, then qualified, and I was very certain I didn't want to practice, but I was unsure what I wanted to do.
I think that happens to a lot of
A
us
whole lot.
that study law, especially in Nigeria.
A whole lot. And it so happened that I had a friend who was on radio and had this notice put up, back then, the BlackBerry status, who would like to hang out with me and so and so. So I did go on radio to hang out with him, first show of the year. And I met someone there, the late George Omagbemi. So while sitting, waiting to go on air, George Omagbemi, in his nature, walked in and was introducing himself to everyone. I should have mentioned that my father also retired from media. He retired as the director at the Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria, FRCN. And so the moment I mentioned my name to George Omagbemi, he didn't let my hand go. Like, why does your last name sound familiar? I'm like, yes, you worked with my dad. And then he went, after all the theatrics, what do you do now? I said, I don't do anything. So, but I would like to see what happens in the world of radio and how things go around. And boom, that's how I got an internship slot. And I'm like, this is it. And that's how I got introduced to the world of media. Along the line, I'd qualified to become a dispute resolutor and all of that. So, yeah.
Okay, great. So now, how did you get this particular position, working as SSA?
Okay, so the reality about it is opportunity and preparedness. Many people like to term it as luck. But you would, across your life, have things that are burning in your heart. And an opportunity will present itself where you'll meet the people that should matter. I always say that I'm rich in people. I might not be rich in finances, but I'm very rich in, in people, and I have a vast network of people. And, they say shoot your shot. Shot by shot, and, here we are today. Because really, you will meet a person who will say, I think this would fit you. I think you should try for this. I think you are a best fit person. You would also get to a position where you say, I think I am best fit for this. And when those opportunities do present themselves, be always ready, be prepared. It's not at that point that you now start saying, let's start to look at, because there's really nothing about luck. It's about how I have been very vocal about my stance on this whole disability journey. And it's an eye-opener functioning in this capacity, I'll be very honest with you. Because one of the things that you want to see is, why are things not working as fast as or why are things working at this level? But now you see and you understand why, and you understand the enormity of the issues that we're faced with and how everybody can just put their hands together and say, okay, this is how everything will work. So, yeah.
So has your perspective altered? I won't say changed. Has it altered from before you had a little bit more exposure to what happens in the seat of power? For instance, there were a lot of things you were advocating for people living with disabilities. Has anything changed?
Absolutely not. Not one thing has changed.
Okay.
But I feel like one of the biggest things that will hit you is the reality of how many things work and the realities of how many things move around. Okay. So now, for people who know me, who are very close to me, yes, it hit me because the reality is private sector, public service are two contrast on two different ends. Okay. And people who are close to me know how in that state of shock and disillusionment. I'm like, no, I'm not. And they're like, no, this is why it is that you're built for this particular season and at such a time as this. Yeah. So my perspective, my realities haven't altered. They've only just been exposed to what is and what can be. Because now I now see that it's a marathon. And with pockets of relays, you know, you're handing over the baton to this person, you're handing over the baton to this person. So you now know without a doubt that, look, for starters, it is not a responsibility that can only be borne by one person or one institution, as the case may be.
Okay, okay.
Okay, that's actually amazing, because I mean, I know I met a lot of people, a number of people that have worked in government, and I know how, as you said, a lot of people, when we're out looking from a private perspective, we see it so differently. We're like, oh, okay, these people are not doing anything, but when they get there, most times people on the outside see it as, you've been influenced, Abby. You understand, that's rubbed off you now, right? So, I mean, from that point now, your perspective obviously has not changed, but now, what would you say is the difference from when you were, where you were, and then now that you're here? What would you say is the difference with the actualization of the goals you set out for yourself?
So the major difference is now I'm hit by the reality of, number one, the number of people having to deal with and the nature of their diverse persons.
Okay.
So in simple terms, what it means now, on a broader spectrum, I see how interesting it is to deal with people who, you know, need a lot of work on their mindsets.
Okay. Yes.
Outside of provision of, say, stipends from the government, for instance. And now you understand why it's very necessary for every single person who lives around a person living with disability to affirm them, to validate them. Because once all of those things are done from the lower level, it's easier for you to understand if you accept that there is free healthcare provision in the law for persons living with disability, or free education.
Yes.
And then you see this neighbor who has a child living with special needs, and you say, you know that this child can actually go to school. And person,
they don't
no, they don't know.
No.
Two, they are skeptical about it. We live in a trust deficit society. Well, we must be honest about that. Okay. And so now this reality of having to grapple with different perspectives, different realities of people, different mindsets, has been one of the rudest shocks for me as a person functioning now in this capacity. Okay. And it's also made me understand how my mental health is absolutely important. And how to cut off, say, this far no more, or I can take this on, I can do this, and how to bring things together, because a lot of things are happening, but they are happening in silos. Okay. So now, merging all of it together and saying this must happen is where we are.
So you know, there's something I note whenever I travel. There's wheelchair access in certain buildings. You know, things put in place for people living with disabilities. Have you put this particular project into consideration yet?
So it's very funny you would say this. There is an existing law. Okay, let me start from this. There is an office. Well over 10 years, Lagos State Office of Disability Affairs, you know, ably run by the GM, Mr. Dario Gundari, and his entire team. And the Office of Disability Affairs is domiciled, you know, at the Ministry of Youth and Social Development. Okay. There is a law, a special people's law, that was amended in 2015, and it so happens that accessibility is absolutely one of the provisions. Okay. Now, monitoring is a unit in the Office of Disability Affairs, and as I mentioned earlier, marathon is the reality. There are as many people who can come on board to partner with the government in ensuring that you go out and you start to penalize. Yes. Quite a number of places have been penalized. Quite a number of building facility owners have been penalized. And it might interest you to know that even private schools have also been penalized and stopped from sending children with special needs home to say, you are duty bound to provide them with inclusive education. Okay. So these things are present in the law. But again, so many laws, people do not know what the provisions are. Okay. And until we start to look at these provisions, you might not really know, are you serious? There's free healthcare. Did you know that? Wow. And over 3,000 persons living with disability actually currently enjoy free healthcare in Lagos. So,
Wow. Wow.
See you back to the law.
You know what? We could probably never have enough time to keep this conversation going, but it's great for us to at least start it, and hopefully we can continue it online with you. Make sure you use our hashtag WakeUpNigeria on TVC if you have a question, and we'll be tagging her, and hopefully she'll be able to answer things for you.